Hello, and welcome to the world of Running Behind. I'm Joey Metzger, your DJ for us party pace people hanging out at the back. Today, I am joined by fellow back of the packer, Mr. Trail Tortoise Running himself, Joe Hardin. Joe is a trail runner, an ultra marathoner, a writer, a podcast host, a master woodworker, a poet, and soon-to-be race director. And maybe most importantly, Joe is sober. On December 1st, 2019, Joe took his last drink. I am honored to sit down with Joe as he shares the details of his journey to sobriety and how along the way he found and fell in love with trail running and ultramarathons. This promises to be an inspiring and powerful episode. So get those Hokos laced up, get those earbuds in, and let's get ready to hit the trail. Today I have got a special guest, Joe Hardin, Trail Tortoise Running on Instagram. And Joe is a trail runner. First off, Joe, you have a fantastic name. I have to compliment you on that. You are legally Joseph, like me, correct?
Yeah, that's right. So two Joes. Yeah. Like I said, Joseph usually means I'm in trouble, so I usually go by Joe. But
when my mom was alive, it was Joseph Maurice when I was in trouble, for sure. But I think I mentioned it, but back in the 50s, there was a song called I Remember Joey, and my mom and dad, when they were dating, they loved that song. It took them 6 kids and 11 years, and they finally had me, and they're like, fine, we got a Joey, but of course, legally, I'm Joseph, but... So I've got Joe Hardin, Trail Tortoise Running. Joe is a trail runner, an ultra runner. You are a sober athlete, and I think that's gonna be an important story for you to talk about. You are, Joe, is it fair to call you a fellow back of the packer, right?
Oh yeah. I'm a proud party pacer.
Very good. And Joe is also, he is a veteran podcast host. You've been doing this longer than I have. You are a writer for, podcast host and writer for Run Try Mag. And then you are what I would call a master woodworker. And I want to talk about that because I've done some woodworking, and I want to pick your brain on a few things. I love seeing your woodworking stuff. So, Joe, if you listen to my podcast, I usually kick these off with a couple really quick things. I like to ask people, before we even find out who they are, what's one word that describes you as a runner, Joe? Joe the runner.
Okay. One word that kind of sticks out to me is the word gratitude. It's always forward with everything that I do in running, so.
Like it. And then, one word that describes you, Joe, as a person.
I think one word that describes me as a person is curious. Like, I'm infinitely curious, and I think that's, like you mentioned, I do a lot of different things. I think curiosity is kind of what drives me, like kind of who I am as a person, and kind of what keeps me going.
Love it. And then I have to ask you the question that you ask everybody else, Joe. Who the heck is Joe Hardin? Who are you?
All right. Yeah, so that's a tough question. I ask my guests that, and I try to think of how I would answer that. Good question. I'm on the spot. That's good stuff. All right. Well, I'll start. I'll start like high level. So I'm a father. Okay. 2 wonderful kids. Now 2 teenagers as of yesterday. I'm a husband. Wow. Right. I'm a husband. I've got a great wife, partner, best friend, great family, always super supportive. And I'd go next, I'm sober. That's a huge deal. Without my sobriety, I wouldn't have, my family and my loving family. I'm a trail runner. I'm a hiker. I'm an outdoors person. I love the outdoors. Something about being outside kind of fuels my spirit. Like you mentioned, I'm a podcast host. I like to fancy myself a writer occasionally, woodworker, business owner, I guess solopreneur, well, entrepreneur now. I got a business partner. I guess we could talk about that. And I didn't think about this, but I'm actually I'm an aspiring race director, so I've got a race coming up. So I guess add RD to that list of all the things that I do.
You're kidding. You're a race director too. My God, I only penciled this in for an hour and a half, but we might have to do multiple versions of this podcast. That's awesome. I love it. Absolutely love it. So I've been following you on Instagram. I started doing my podcast in February, and I'm really bad at the social media, but I'm trying to use Instagram, and I post stuff, and you started following me right away, and we messaged a couple of times and kind of I love what you're doing. I love following you and all your stuff. You're kind of like, I just really relate to everything you're doing. And so I want to get into all that. So here's what I want to talk about today is I always like kind of knowing people's history, how they got started running. So I want to talk about that. I want to talk obviously about your path to sobriety. I think that's a huge part of your life and your story. And I think that's really important. And then I want to talk about your podcasting and your writing. I want to talk about your poetry because you write some of the most amazing poems. I don't know if they're original or not on Instagram, but I love it. I want to talk about your woodworking, and then I want to talk about your trail running and your races. And then at the end, the last half, Joe, I really want to get into specifics on the one you did last weekend with your buddy Derek, the Mohican 100. Oh, yeah. I want to talk about that. I want to talk about your other 100-mile attempts. And then you told me you've got a great DFL story. I have come basically DFL. I'm usually in the bottom 5, almost always. So I have to hear your DFL story. So we'll get into all of that.
Absolutely.
I want to start with, I'm just interested, as a youth, as a kid in grade school and high school, did you do any sports? Were you active? Were you outdoors? What was your youth like in grade school and high school in terms of sports and outdoor activities?
Honestly, I was not very active at all. Like, I think I played a little t-ball. I did like a little BCYFL, which is like a youth football. I played a little bit of football in middle school, but outside of that, very not active at all. Actually, pretty sedentary. To me, running was like a punishment. Like you screwed up in PE or like a football game. Like running was like you hit the track. That was like kind of your punishment. So I honestly wasn't very active whatsoever. Up until my late 30s, which is wild considering what I like to do with my free time.
Yeah, right. It's crazy. Like, and I too, I am not. I don't think I'm anywhere near the athlete you are today. But I just think it's funny. In my youth, I didn't do much of anything. I was very much a nerd. Still am a nerd. Just. Doing my nerdy things. And then as I got older, like into my 40s, I started working out. So I met my wife. And then when I turned 50, I started running. So I'm way behind you. You started like around 40 before you turned 40. So you're way ahead of me when it comes to that. So that's great. So I want to talk about how you got started running and what happened first, Joe. Was it the path to sobriety that happened first, or was it running, or which one happened first?
I actually got sober first, and my sobriety journey led me into running. And I was about, I think I've shared this a few times. I was about a year into my sobriety before I actually voluntarily ran my first anything over like a quarter of a mile or like a mile. I found running later on, and I'm kind of, perfect timing because it's been so huge in my continuing sobriety.
So talk to me about that. Like when, and you can talk as much or as little as you want, but I know I've heard you on other interviews, and I think it's a powerful story. How did you end up in that place, and how the hell did you get yourself out of it, and what did it take to get out of it? And if you wouldn't mind just kind of going into that journey a little bit, I know myself and my listeners, all 30 or 40 or 50 of them would love to hear.
Yeah, absolutely. I actually, anymore, like, it took me a long time to be as candid with my sobriety story as I have been. And it's just been like so refreshing to like, each year I'll share a little bit more about it, a little bit more about it. So I love sharing my sobriety journey. I think it's a big part of my own sobriety journey. It helps me, and I always hope that this resonates with other people. So absolutely. So I'll go back. Something that I'm open about is I struggled with drugs and alcohol problems, most of my life, dating back as far as I could comfortably say I probably had a drinking problem as early as like my 8th grade year in middle school. Like certainly by sophomore year in high school, I would say I had like problem drinking, and drugs. And it's unfortunate that drugs are easier to get a hold of than alcohol when you're underage. So it was a little bit of both, like pharmaceuticals and alcohol, and I carried that on for many, like well over 20 years. Really heavy drug and alcohol use, and that kind of turned into pretty significant mental health struggles too. Like obviously those kind of go hand in hand, and I kept finding like a new rock bottom, and I wouldn't think that I could go any lower. And sure enough, I'd find a new low.
Yeah.
And I just made a complete mess of myself. And December 1st, 2019, I went to a bar, and I got tossed out of that bar, basically head first through this door. And I take off in my truck, and I blacked out behind the wheel of my truck, woke up in a ditch, and it's like, and obviously I'm going to first say don't ever drink and drive. I'm really, really lucky I didn't hurt anybody. I never, outside of a few brushes with the law and some wrecked cars, I never did any significant damage to anybody else. But I woke up in that ditch, kind of came to and realized that, this was it. I couldn't go any lower. So December 1st, 2019, I took my last drink, and I knew, right then and there that I didn't have any more rock bottoms to find. I knew it was gonna kill me. So I decided to get sober right then. I tried traditional rehab and AA and all that stuff, and it just doesn't, for some reason I wasn't vibing with it. And this time I just, I did it for myself, for nobody else. And I am glad to say that I have been sober ever since then. So that's going on, almost 6 years. So it's been quite a journey. It hasn't been easy, one day at a time, 1 minute at a time, as they say. But just what a miracle it is, man. Waking up sober every single day is a miracle every single day. And it's one that I try not to take for granted.
Yeah. I've never been through that journey, but I'm curious, did it take several attempts? Did it or did it just happen all at once, or what was that process like?
So this time was all at once. I was done. I knew I was done. I tried several times before. Maybe it wasn't for myself. Maybe it was like for maybe probation, or maybe my family had done some kind of intervention, and I was just doing it to make them happy. And those never stuck, and I relapsed so many times. And this time I just knew, it's like so clear that I had to stop right then. It was like a sign, like I mentioned before, they always say like a moment of clarity, and I always thought that people that said that were like full of it, but I had it. It was just like, it was like a light was shown on me. It's like, this is it, man. Like, this is your chance to get clean. You got to turn it around right now, or you're not going to be here for much longer. So that was it. I just knew it. And I did it for myself. And that's the big thing about sobriety. You have to do it for yourself. So And that's been, like
Yeah.
I said, it's been
Yeah.
what a ride since I took that last drink. But
Yeah. Yeah. That's amazing. And can I ask, was there did you use one of the programs, or was it just yourself, just being, focused to get to make this successful? Was it a program, or just supportive family, or what was it that really made you successful?
well, this time so I got sober during COVID too, which is wild, right? So the world is shut down, and I'm going through early sobriety. And I've been open about this too. I went through like really painful withdrawals and DTs and stuff in the early days of sobriety. So I didn't really know what to do. So I just kind of gutted it out. And oddly enough, one of those days I was really struggling, and I was going through, my second divorce. I just a whole bunch of bad stuff kind of came at the end of like the early days of sobriety, which, now I look back on, that was a test, right? I was supposed to be tested. And I drive out to my aunt and uncle's house, and they have a wood shop. And they're out there turning bowls and stuff. And I walk into my aunt's shop, and I'm like just really going through a bad day. And my aunt hands me like this chunk of wood and like a chisel, or a skew chisel, a bowl gouge actually. And it was like, here, you're going to make a bowl. And I sat out there for 12 hours just turning blanks of wood. And that's kind of how I got through early sobriety. And then I was lucky enough kind of at the tail end of COVID to find a local recovery center. I was actually on their board for a while, called Life Journey Recovery Center. And instead of going through the traditional meetings like I did before, I kind of took a role as volunteering for this organization. And I think that focusing on serving others in sobriety is what really got me through this time, because just the miracles you see kind of behind the curtain of recovery centers, you just get to see a daily reminder of how amazing sobriety is. And it's possible, and that's something that I never knew. I never thought I could be sober for an hour, much less days at this point. Which so I went through some different programs and stuff, but it really like I said, serving others has really been my meetings, kind of, especially now later on, and with years of sobriety now.
Yeah, that's amazing. Joe, would you mind sharing, I listened to some of your other interviews on your other podcasts, and you have a sweet story with your wife, right? Where you guys got divorced, and you're back together now. Do I have that correctly?
Yeah.
Through all of this?
So
tell that story.
So Cassie, that's my wife now. Kind of in the middle of all of this madness, unfortunately, I wasn't a good spouse to my first and now current wife. And like I mentioned before, looking back at it now, I don't hold it against her for us getting divorced first time, because I was a disaster. She was raising another kid, so unfortunately, we got divorced, the mother of my kids, and I remarried, and that went terribly. No one's fault. Like I said, I remarried. I got divorced from my first wife, now my wife, and I guess I'll get into that. And I remarried somebody who was also an addict, and it's like pouring gas on an already burning fire, And when I got sober, I realized, there was a lot of things that I wasn't I might have had my kids on the weekends, but I wasn't present. I was never available to my kids in any way outside of, them just being there or me being around. And I knew that my second wife wasn't going to get sober. So, unfortunately that had to, end. And, and something that I guess I didn't share about, the last time I took a drink is when I was going through all that stuff, there at the tail end, I was, I don't mean to trigger anybody, but I was struggling with some suicidal ideation too. And during the last like big rock bottom that I had, I actually reached out to my ex-wife, so my current wife, Cassie. And even though we weren't together, she picked up the phone and helped me. And that's something that always stuck with me. Like, why, and that, like I said, this is kind of a testament to who she is as a person. She had no reason to pick up that phone that night. I ended up calling her that night that I blacked out in my truck and like woke up in a ditch. And that always meant so much to me. And since then, we worked on becoming friends again and dating again. And I'm happy to say that we have now been remarried now for 2 years. So, and that's amazing. I mean, what a miracle.
Congratulations.
Yeah, it took years of work, to show her that I'm not who I was. But I'm always so glad that she, opened herself up and could trust me again and gave me an opportunity to show her that I'm different, So I think that's always compelling. It's always kind of my tribute to her is I'm so glad that she picked up the phone that night because it meant a lot to me.
Yeah, what a gift. That is amazing. I love that story. I forget which podcast you were on where you told it, and I'm like, oh my gosh, that is a great story. I hope you talk about it. Okay, so, gosh, we've been talking here for a while now. We haven't talked any running. We've been on for half an hour. That's fine. You know my podcast. I don't know what the hell I'm doing. I rarely talk running. Sometimes we talk running. This is great. I love it. So you're on your journey. You've gotten yourself sober. And then you're reconnecting and with your previous wife, now wife again. At what point, Joe, do you discover running? And then I want to talk about when do you discover trail running and ultra running? Talk about that.
Yeah, gladly. Okay, so early sobriety, my first year sobriety birthday. Me and my family go out to dinner. We celebrate my sobriety birthday more than my regular birthday. I'm 40. I'll be 43 in a couple weeks. Who cares, right? We're in our 40s. We don't care about birthdays.
You're just a baby, Joe. I'm 57. Right? Come on. You're just a baby yet.
But, so my sobriety birthday, I get cards and, it's like a huge deal.
Yeah.
So we go out to dinner. We're sitting there as like a family, having this great dinner. And my wife suggests like, hey, for your first year sobriety birthday, we should get you a gym membership. Because this is something I guess I haven't mentioned yet. But I, at one point, was like 110 pounds heavier than I am now. And I had started losing I think I lost like 60 pounds just from not drinking. I lost like 60 pounds. So I hadn't even started moving yet. I drink a lot of alcohol. That's how many calories I drink. So
I was going to say there's calories in alcohol for sure. Yeah.
Lots. So yeah, we pop in over there, get a gym membership. Anytime Fitness Lebanon, great gym. I still go there. I've become really good friends with the owners. They're like a family to me. Actually, the owner is a co-race director. So we're business partners. So I get a gym membership. I wake up bright and early the next morning, 5 a.m., go right in there and get on a treadmill. Early on in my fitness life, I was pretty ashamed to work out in public. So I would go really, really early, just get on the treadmill, just kind of do my thing for half an hour and skedaddle. And I did that for a while. I always get my timetables mixed up here. But I felt like I went in there in December, and I may have done that for quite a few months. And I remember, I feel like it was somewhere in summer-ish time, I actually got to the point where I could run a quarter mile, and then it was a half a mile. And then eventually, I think I finally ran a full mile, all together without stopping. And I thought that was such a big deal. It is a big deal. A quarter mile is a big deal.
It is.
And
it is.
I felt so good. And I remember leaving that gym, and there was a flyer for a turkey trot coming up that fall. and I took a picture of it or something, and I come home and my wife's getting ready for work, and I was like, hey, I have like this crazy idea. Like, do you think we could train and like do this 5K together on Thanksgiving? And obviously, like, she's in and supportive, and we train for this thing, and the training goes well, the day of goes well, and it's all said and done. But it's just like, well, what's next? I had so much fun training for that thing, so I think I think we went right into that, and we signed up for the Indy Mini was our next thing, and same thing. We had such a blast training for that thing, and I just remember that feeling of crossing my very first finish line. It's magical, like, and I don't think I've ever lost that feeling. It doesn't matter the distance. That doesn't matter how long the race is. I could line up to a 5K tomorrow. I could line up to a 100-mile tomorrow, and I always get that same feeling. And I said, what a buzz it is just to show up to a start line.
Yeah.
And I just remember feeling so accomplished. Like, I couldn't believe I did something, like, with my body, and I never lost that feeling. And it doesn't really matter the distance. I just love that, like, start line vibe. It's like, it's your victory lap for all this hard work that you've done. So that's how I got into running. It's been a whirlwind since.
That is awesome. I'm the same way. I'm a very emotional person, as you've probably heard me talk about if you've listened to any of my episodes. The first half marathon I did, road half marathon, my wife was there waiting for me. I think I cried going across that finish line. The first trail race I ever did was a 17-mile race, and I got all choked up going across that line. And my first 50K I did, I made a movie about it. And I think even in the movie, you can hear my voice cracking as talking about my mom and dad who had passed away. And yeah, it's emotional. I love crossing that finish line. I don't care if I'm last. I'm usually right there at the end. As long as they haven't tore stuff down, I'm going to cross it. Yeah, I love that. So these races are all road races, or when do you start going on the trails and going, oh, I want to run 100 miles? How the hell do we get to that point, Joe?
Oh, yeah. See, we have a big bridge to gap there, don't we? Or gap to bridge. So
maybe. I don't know.
How I got into trail running. However they say it. We can make up phrases as we go, right, Joey? So,
Yep.
So trail running.
Yeah.
So I work for this like research. I work for a research and development company. I still do, actually. And they had hired a new engineer. And I walk into work that day, and I see this guy sitting. At the time, I had no cubicle neighbors. So I walk in, I have a cubicle neighbor this day at work. And I see this guy wearing Hoka. He's wearing Hoka ones. And I'm like, so are you a runner? And he's like, yeah, my name's Ty, by the way. And then I also see on his desk a woodworking magazine. So I'm just like, dude, me and this guy made friends like immediately. And it turns out he was like some former like elite soccer player. And he's like crazy about woodworking, loves running. And we ran together after work on Fridays. We would do like long run Fridays. We'd like knock out an 8 mile or like a 5 mile or something. And I remember one day at work, we were talking about running. He goes, hey, you should come run trails with me this Friday. And I was like, well, you can run trails? Like, he's like, yeah. He's like, yeah, there's this place called Eagle Creek down the road. And so that Friday, I bring my road shoes with me. I think I had a pair of like, I don't know, like Ghost 13s or something. And the very first time I ever run trail, no water, no nutrition. He's like, you don't need any of that stuff. And I follow him, and we just like blast this like 13-mile route. I mean, I'm like, so like when
13 miles. Your first trail run.
It was yeah, and I didn't know you could run the woods. I didn't know about like I'm following him up hills. We're running up hills, bombing these downhills. I didn't have any water, nothing. Like, and I just remember sitting in my car, and I was just like absolutely wrecked. And come to find out like later that he's like, some basically elite soccer player and had like this like athletic background. And
Yeah.
I went home and immediately it was just like, I looked up like trail running shoes, like got on YouTube, all this stuff. And
What
I didn't even know trail running was a
What was
word,
the first
right? Like,
YouTube movie you watched? What was the first YouTube movie you watched, Joe, about trail running? Because I'll tell you
I'll
mine.
tell you because it's the one that got me looking at ridiculous feats. It was A Day in the Life by Billy Yang. Like, it absolutely changed everything about my life. Like,
Yeah.
oh goodness,
Yeah.
like how incredible is that film? Was that yours?
That was like one of the first three ones I ever saw. I saw Unbreakable. Because I started when I got into trail running, started listening to Ginger Runner podcasts.
Oh yeah.
And so he had all these great podcasts. Went to his YouTube channel, and then I found Unbreakable, and of course Billy Yang's movie Life in a Day. All those, the Ginger Runner ones he did with Gary Robbins. All those were my first handful of movies. That's what got me going.
Life in the Day just set a whirlwind in motion that I will never be able to turn back, and I've been signing up for stuff ever since then, and that's what got me. Yeah, it's what got me where I'm at now. It's I like once a year have to go back and rewatch that movie. It like re-stokes a fire in me every time I watch that movie. It's the first time in my life I've been so moved by a movie. I like reached out to Billy Yang, was like, you have no idea what this movie means to probably hundreds of people. Because I've heard a lot of people say that movie is what got them into just what a piece of art that whole film is. But so yeah, I went home that night and just like dug in. I didn't know anything about hydration vests. Like, so it's just like it set the very significant wheels in motion that very first. So I always have to thank Ty. I haven't seen him in a while, but I always have to thank him so much for getting me out there and showing me this, like, what a crazy world trail running is. What a beautiful and crazy world it is.
Did you guys do more trail runs after that, or was it a one and done?
I think we did a few, but like it was I was off to the races. I don't think he really wanted to go down the extreme rabbit hole that I went down, but I know we've linked up since then and did some road runs. But
how long after that first trail run was your first trail race?
I think my first
few
trail
months
run
within that year.
It was that was in the summertime, because I remember it was hot, and I did my first 50K that following December. Well, I did an 18-miler Okotoke trail run, so shout out to Trailblazer Running. I go back to that race every year. And so I did that 18-miler, and it was like brutally hot outside. That was in August. And my first 50K was, well, I did a backyard. So I did a backyard that September. But that was a road, and I still go back to that. It was Prairie on Fire backyard. I love backyards. I'm sure we'll get into that.
Okay.
And then I followed up with like my first like trail 50K in December, and then I like really felt like a trail runner, because like Jackson County Forest is like a magical place. Jackson County 100K, now they have 100K, and I always go back to that every year too, because it's just a beautiful course. And then I just felt like, I conquered this trail. I felt like a badass ultra runner finally. Yeah. But it wasn't far. It wasn't long after that I dove into ultras.
Dove right in. Hey, I have a question for you. I think this is true of a lot of us. I ran a half road, half marathon, and then I discovered trail running, and I'm like, oh, cool. I can go slow and no one will care, because a lot of people are walking up these hills and shit. So, but I went, I did some, like you, I did some 17-mile, 18-mile, whatever we were calling them, 25Ks, 30Ks. And then I skipped marathon and went right to a 50K. Was that the same for you? You skipped marathon, or did you do a marathon before that?
I have not done a marathon. Like, I don't know why. Like, so I've been, you mentioned I'm a podcast host, so I've had the chance to like go back and like interview some road runners, and I've got friends that are road runners now, and I'm thinking about like doubling back and doing a marathon. But for some reason, I just skipped right over that. I don't know. I just like, once I found trail, it just like, I didn't really focus on the marathon number. And it's like, if I'm already going to run a marathon, I may as well run a 50K. That's kind of what my mentality was then. But I won't lie, I've become marathon curious now, because I think it'd be kind of like I'm intimidated by a marathon more so than I am an ultra, which is wild. But I'd like to like focus on just a marathon distance, maybe sometime.
Yeah. Yeah, I've never done a road marathon. Last weekend I did, was it last? I don't know. They all blend together, last weekend before. I did a timed event called Fans. Courtney DeWalter actually has run this event. She's from Minnesota, and my buddy is the race director, David Shannon, and you can do 6 hour, 12 hour, or 24 hour, and Courtney has done the 24 hour at this event in Bloomington, Minnesota, and I think she holds the record. Of course she does. But it's on a little path around a lake, so it's all paved. And I don't think I would do a marathon, but next year I think I'm going to say it here live on the podcast so that you guys all hold me to it. I'm going to sign up for the 24 hour and try to see if I can. I don't think I get 100 miles. I'm not that fast or, that good, but I'm going to try to get 60, 70 miles in 24 hours, see how far I can get. And that's on the road.
Yeah.
I wouldn't do a marathon per se because, well, for me, a lot of them still have like a 6 hour cutoff. And I'm just like, dude, I don't know. I don't know if I can get there at this point. I don't know if I'm motivated. I probably could if I trained and had the right coach. That doesn't motivate me. But these timed events where I can go for 12 hours or 24 hours and get past the marathon, that's kind of cool. If that's on a road, that's all right. So,
yeah, I love the vibe at timed events too.
You like timed events?
Yeah, the vibe is just cool. It's like you're kind of just chilling with everybody.
Yeah.
So yeah, I agree with you on that.
Oh yeah. Yeah, this event I was at, there was a dude he was like in his 80s, and what do they call him? Fast Eddie. And he's just, I don't know if he's doing 24 hours, but like everybody, all abilities, everybody's friendly. It was really nice. I really enjoyed it. I already told David, I said, I'm coming back next year and I might sign up for 24 hour. But I want to talk about, you mentioned, we'll get to backyards, but you mentioned podcast hosts. So in your story, you have gone through sobriety, you're sober now, you discover running, then you discover trail running. You get into that. How do you become a podcast host? Tell us that story, and a writer for Run Try Mag, because I'm really interested in having my audience hear about
goodness. That. So I had this woodworking Instagram page. I still do, and I post a lot about woodworking stuff and like the stuff that I turn and make and all this stuff. And I noticed that like my algorithm on it's now my business page, but my algorithm would be weird. It'd be like woodworking, wood turning, like live edge tables, and then running. And I was posting about my running journey on my woodworking page, and I was just like, well, is it silly to like keep these together? So I started this whole new Instagram page. That's where Tortoise Running comes into play. And immediately I'm posting about my running stuff, and I started like sprinkling in my sobriety story, and that really resonated with a lot of people, more so in the running aspect, because I mean, it's no secret that a large number of ultra runners are going through some kind of recovery, like mental health. Sobriety is a big one. Whatever it may be, eating disorders, like it's just, and it's such a miracle. So I like really resonated so well with these people, and so whatever, my algorithm starts popping up, like running stuff, like, and I remember I saw this like random, like just scrolling through Instagram, and I saw this like random thread. It was just like, from Run Try Bike on their Instagram page, and it says, how was the phrase? It's like, basically, I'm gonna paraphrase. It's like everybody belongs at the start line. DM us or comment, whatever it was, and I was just like, hey, I'm DM us if you want to share your story. And I immediately hit them up, and I was just like, hey, I'm everybody. I'm an everyday athlete, and I immediately get this message, and they're like, cool, like, would you like to like sit down with us for 30 minutes and chat about your story? And so we set that up. And then, a few days later, I have an interview with Om Gandhi, who ends up being still to this day one of my very good friends. And I shared my journey with them. And Om was just like, and it turns out Om has a very similar story. And he's like, man, your story is powerful. And he's just like, how would you like it to be in the next newsletter? So they have a monthly newsletter. And I was like, yeah, sure. I mean, this is great. It's like, it's still weird to me now that anybody wants to like hear what I have to say or like read something that I write. So I thought that was really cool. And then they hit me back up. They're like, hey, how would you like to be like the cover athlete? So I actually was on the cover of the newsletter that month. And I was on there with some like legitimate athletes, like Kelly Vinson was in that issue. I just thought it was so cool to share space with these people that I had already been looking up to.
Joe, you are a legitimate athlete, by the way. Don't ever think you're not. You're a legitimate athlete, dude.
Well, imposter syndrome is real, man. So it's just like, and I've come to learn now that I belong there too. We all deserve to take up space in this sport, and it was just so powerful, and that was a life-changing experience to me. And I think I mentioned either I write my own blog page or they found it, and then they asked me like a couple weeks later, hey, how would you like to write some pieces for the online the website, because they have a beautiful collection, like everyday athletes just like me, everybody, we all write, we all take up space, share space on their website. It's amazing. So I wrote for them for a few months, and then I got this like email that was just like, hey, we had this idea, we would like to come up with like a network of everyday athletes like you to host a podcast for a network. We're going to call it the Everyday Athlete Podcast Network. And it just jumped out at me, and I knew I had to say yes. And talking in like a public setting is something way out of my wheelhouse, way out of my comfort zone. And I just knew that I had to like bet on myself. I'm going to take this risk. I'm going to take a big swing. And now I'm 20, 30 odd episodes into hosting a podcast. And I'm doing things I never thought I would do, and that's I'm talking to people in a public setting, and coming from my background, someone that used to struggle from like debilitating anxiety, and the fact that I can do public speaking events, I can interview people on a podcast host is something I would never have fathomed, and it's so amazing getting this opportunity and to be a part of this awesome network. I share a network with amazing podcast hosts from all walks of life, and I think it's just a miracle. I mean, the Everyday Athlete Podcast Network is really special, and they're doing great things.
Yep. For my audience, and correct me if I'm wrong, your podcasts, you have two of them on there that I know of. You have Beyond the Finish Line is you, and then you host another one with, is it Jason? The What's in Your Earbuds? Is that just you, or is that the two of you?
That's the two of us now, yeah. So okay. What would happen is during Beyond the Finish Line, I would ask people what they're listening to, and we end up taking 10 minutes of the segment. And I was like, well, crap, I don't want to take my whole, like, because I love music. If I see someone running with earbuds in, or like hiking or biking, I always want to know what they're listening to. So it's kind of funny that What's in Your Earbuds is like this throwaway idea. We were just like playing around. It's still not very well organized, but it's amazing the response we get to that, because we do like challenges. We have people submit their songs, and it's kind of funny how like the least serious of the podcasts that we host is the one that's the most well received now, because we're just like screwing around. We have no organization or anything to that podcast, but it's been a blast to host. So yeah, So What's in Your Earbuds has been amazing.
I've only listened to a couple of the What's in Your Earbuds, but they are fantastic. You guys have great chemistry, and your questions you ask, I just absolutely love the questions you come up with for that. It's really fun. I got to tell you, they're both. I like everything you're doing, but they're really fun. Did you? You and Doug talked about in one of your episodes. Did you do another podcast for runners that are in recovery? or is that you're not doing that anymore? Tell me about that. What was that?
Yeah, so I also belong to this organization called Recovery Roadrunners. So shout out to them. They're out in California. It's a nonprofit organization. We have a huge Facebook page too, and that's kind of so. Yeah, we started hosting that podcast together. It's been kind of intermittent lately. Doug is like the busiest human being I know, so we're gonna try to pick that up again. But we're trying to make like a YouTube channel. Because same thing, the response we're getting from that has been beautifully overwhelming. So we're hoping to pick that up. It's just tough. Like me and Doug are both small business owners, and you know how that goes. It's hard to get us both in the same spot. But yeah, if everybody wants to go back and listen to those, there's some great episodes there. Like early in our sobriety too. So early in running and sobriety. So some of those episodes are kind of fun to go back and listen to now.
Awesome. I'm going to have links to all of your stuff that I can find. I'll have it in the show notes and links to your Instagram and all that too. It's great. Okay, I want to talk about some trail races now. I promised we were going to talk about some of these. So let's go through these. I want to know, well, you kind of talked a little bit about your first trail race, your first 50K. My first question for you is, how many times have you attempted the 100-mile distance, and what have been the races you've attempted that at?
So now twice.
Twice?
Attempted the IT. Yeah. So I attempted the IT 100 back in October, and
what's the IT 100, Joe?
Yeah, Indiana Trail 100. It's up in Albion, Indiana.
Oh, okay.
Really, really beautiful course. Kind of flat too. It's like a 6,000 feet of vertical over 100 miles, just undulating, rolling hills. But the day just went so bad. And my second 100-mile attempt was last weekend, which was the Mohican 100, which is a wildly different topography compared to the I-200 because the Mohican Trail
don't
is
give away
brutal. Yeah.
Don't give away anything on Mohican Trail yet. Okay. No, that's good. So the Mohican Trail last weekend was your second 100-mile attempt. You have done, I was thinking you did 3, but you've done a 100-kilometer attempt, or did you complete that one?
I have ran 2 official 100 kilometers. I've covered that distance a few times, but I ran the Momofo 100K last June, and I ran... after my DNF at IT 100, I ran the Jackson County 100K successfully, which is on a really, really tough course.
Oh, you
Jackson
did?
County is... Yeah. So I had a little redemption 100K after
Tell me about
DNF,
the course.
like
Tell me about
after.
the race and the course.
Oh, Jackson County? Oh, goodness. It's 100 kilometers. You get roughly 11,000 feet of vertical. And there's just 3 big gnarly climbs and then 3 big gnarly downhills. And then the rest of it is fairly runnable. So you can actually run this one. But there's sections on there that, I mean, you're almost on your hands and knees climbing up these things. Because they don't have any... Jackson County State Forest has no switchbacks. It's straight up these climbs, each and straight down. So it's real punishing on your quads and your toes. But at least you get them out of the way and you can run some of this stuff. So, and it's just a blast. Like, I'm friends with the race director. He's one of my biggest clients too. So it's just like the vibe there is really cool. And it's a big 10-mile loop. So you kind of come back to this like big clubhouse.
Okay.
And like the race director was like shouting people out when they came back through their loops because they had like a live tracker. So,
nice.
Yeah, Dino Racing puts that one on. It's just like, Jackson County is just a magical place, and so two official 100Ks. But.
Okay, now let's talk about first the race you were DFL. Was it one of those? Was it the 100K?
Yeah. So my first 100K was Momofo 100K, and actually that's happening right now as we talk. So the second annual
is that in Indiana?
Currently. Yeah, it's down in Morgan Monroe Forest. Beautiful course. Really tough, really tough. I think over
Is it a loop
100K
course, Joe, or is it point to point? Is it point to point or
it's
a
loop
loop?
2. It's a
Okay.
20 just under 20-mile loop. I think 6 H
Okay.
stations, and it kind of does like a figure 8. So you kind of do this section called the
Okay.
low gap. The low gap is like real switchbacky, real technical, and then you get down to backcountry, which is real rocky, real tough, real tough climb, sheer climbs, but it's held by a friend of mine, Benny Hickok, who's this great race director, and puts on this like super awesome vibe. Like every aid station's like got its own. It's like a little party, really well supported. But it starts at 7 o'clock at night, and I went into that thing already kind of like tired, and I just absolutely battled my way through the night for this 100K. I actually experienced my first hallucination. I was it was like so hot, and I was just like pounding water. I got behind the nutrition. It was like falling asleep while I was running. Luckily I was like catching myself with my pole. Yeah, I was like catching myself with my poles, and I kept tripping on rocks. And I'm a proud DFL at that race.
So what is the cut? What is the cutoff for the race for the 100K?
I felt like it was like 20 hours. Yeah.
Okay.
And I think it took me 18 and change to get done.
Oh wow! So
Yeah.
you were within a couple hours of cutoff.
Yeah.
Wow. So
me and a guy named Danny.
Did you? Okay. So were you ever like chasing the cutoffs where you're like, holy crap, I got to get to this aid station? And did you know that did you have any idea that you were in last place?
No, not at all. I don't remember. I don't really remember feeling pressed for cutoffs because I just at one point I just quit paying attention at time. I knew I was getting close, and I was like really struggling. I linked up with this guy named Danny, who I still talk to occasionally now. And me and this guy, he had tripped and like busted his foot up or something. So me and him are in the back of the pack, and the sun came up, and me and him worked out the system where we would like take turns, like let's go from this tree to that trailblaze, like because I mean we were just like really struggling to get running, and I remember I knew we were a couple miles from a finish, and we got up to this road, and Danny's like, "Hey man, let's just sprint this thing in." I was like, "Danny, I don't have a sprint left in me. Go ahead." So he's like, "Are you sure?" I was like, "Yeah, man. Like, go ahead of me." And I just kind of sat there and like collected my thoughts. He ran up ahead of me.
Yeah.
So I finally kind of got a little second, third, 12th wind and was able to like get across the finish line. And then that's when I found out I was DFL. I had zero clue I was DFL. I was just trying to survive, you know?
So when you cross the finish line, they told you you're the last one?
Yeah. And you know what? Like you would think I would be bummed. I would be bummed, but I was so happy because I got this really like the DFL got its own prize. So I got like this really cool. It's like an old saw blade, and they had it like laser cut out with like, yeah. So I got like a really cool DFL prize, and like Benny and company made like such a big deal about everybody that crossed the finish line. So everybody got like. Yeah, it doesn't matter if you were first or last. Yeah. Benny made the finish line vibe the same for everybody. So it's just like, I was just so proud. I mean, 100 kilometers.
Those are the races. That is crazy. Well, congratulations. I mean, it's 60 miles. That's nuts. 18 hours. People, sometimes like you and I, we listen to all the podcasts and all the elites and all these great athletes, and they are phenomenal athletes, and they do 100K and they're done in 6 hours. You were out there 3 times as long. People have to understand you're not running fast, but you're putting in, I would say, 3 times the effort. It's just crazy. So congratulations to you. That's so cool. I love race directors. My next guests are Bill and Mandy. They're race directors here in Minnesota and Wisconsin, Iowa area. And they are just all about there is no cutoffs at their races. And they
Oh,
just
I love
support.
that.
I've come in second to last, third to last at their stuff, and they're there cheering just like I won the frickin' thing. And I just love those race directors and races and events like that. That's awesome. Okay, so let's talk about Mohican 100. Was this your first time doing the Mohican 100?
Yeah, yeah, it
Okay.
was. I was trying to remember how this came up on my radar. So I'll give you like this really wild. So this
You,
is how small the running world is. A buddy of mine ran the perimeter of the country. His name is Cam Balzer. He ran into a guy from Ohio, and they got to talking about. He was sharing a sobriety story, and he goes, "Hey, my buddy Joe is a sober runner." So I ended up connecting with this guy from Ohio named David, and he was just like, "There's this race close to me called the Mohican 100." So small world. I signed up for this thing, and that's how I found out about the Mohican 100. But yeah, goodness, what a race! I ended up meeting my buddy Derek there, who I had on my podcast a
so
while back, and
yeah, I
we
listened to that
become
episode with you and Derek
yeah.
talking about it. Um, you signed up for it, and then because you guys were friends, he signed up for it. Is that how that worked?
Yeah, yeah. So I guess I should have mentioned that. So Derek goes, "Hey, how about I pace you?" And I was like, "Man, that'd be great," because I wasn't going to ask for pacers. I don't really like to ask for crew or pacers. You're asking somebody to give up their entire weekend in the event that you finish a race. And a couple days go by, and Derek calls me. He goes, "Is it like it? Is it against like?" How do you say it? Is it impolite if I ask if I could just sign up for me, just run the whole thing together? And I was like, no, dude, like send it, sign up for this thing. I was like, how cool is this?
Yeah.
He's like, are you sure? Is like, am I breaking some kind of rule? Like, no, dude. I was like, sign up for it. This is awesome. Like, we'll just catch more miles together. So
Yeah.
that's how Derek got signed up for it, and me and Derek were in, my whole part of that trail, all the miles together, but. Yeah, I can dig into that. Obviously, it was an attempt,
Yeah.
so I
So let,
DNF'd. But
so let's you did DNF, but let's talk about it. So the race itself, I looked up the stats, and I got to tell you, to be honest with you, Joe, I was really hoping you came in last because the title of this podcast was already made, "Last of the Mohicans." I was just like,
oh
please,
man,
please, if there is a God, let Joe come in last so I can call this "Last of the Mohicans." But so I looked up the race course and I saw your pictures. It looks gorgeous. It looks like something out of like the Gorge, 100K or something up in the Pacific Northwest. But it's forest. It's kind of loops. You do different distances but it's kind of all
yeah,
the same paths and loops through the same park. Is that correct?
yeah. So your first loop is 27 miles. Then I think your second loop is 25. Then it's like I'm not mathing right. Then it's like 23 and 23. So your first loop, they just for fun, they add like this little section called the Enchanted Forest, which is not running. You're bushwhacking this thing. And me and Derek thought we were lost. So it's not marked either, by the way. They'd already say that, but it's not marked. You're climbing over
No.
rocks, boulders. We stopped because we're like, oh, we're even on course. And me and Derek were like, Derek goes, this is the only place humans could possibly go. So you have to like make your way through this like holler that's just like running water. And then eventually, as you work your way through it, you realize that you have to climb up probably like a 15-foot cliff and use like these like roots as you're climbing up a cliff, like these like rooted cliff, and there was like water cascading over the roots, and it was like so sketchy, but it was like probably the coolest thing I've ever experienced at a trail race. Like it was pretty rad. I've never had to like climb over
It's
like that
awesome.
much stuff, but it was really cool. So
Yeah. Wow. Did you know it was like the course was like that? Did you have any idea?
I knew that there was like different distances, but I didn't know about the Enchanted Forest section until
Okay.
I was driving to the Mohican and like found a podcast about the Mohican, and they were talking about the Enchanted Forest. So I kind of knew there was like this sketchy, unmarked section going like the day before, but man, it was so cool. Yeah, like you said, the picture doesn't really do that place justice. That place is gorgeous. It just really technical. It's probably the hardest trail I've ever been on too. But what a magical gem of a forest, though.
Wow. So you ended up getting through. Spoiler alert, Derek finished, right? Derek actually got it done in what was the cutoff? 32 hours?
Yeah, 32 hours, and I think he came in at 30. So, yeah, I mean, he battled hard to get that done. Yeah,
congratulations, Derek. Amazing. Okay, so I want to talk about. So you get to how far did you get to? Mile 45?
Yeah, I ended up having
like that?
I ended up dropping at 45-ish, somewhere in that area. Okay. But
and what was it? Nutrition? It was your knee, right?
Yeah, I don't know what happened. Like, we got to about 50K, and the downhills really started hurting. And I was like, dang, you know, I have like this rule, like, don't give your pain a voice. I didn't like. I feel like when you complain about something, like, it belongs to the universe and it gets worse or something. I don't know what. Like So I was like, I'm not going to say anything. But we got to that first loop, and I was like, I always bring knee braces, but I've never used one, which I don't know why I even have this knee brace. So I'm kind of glad I brought it, anyways. I slip on a knee brace and don't say anything. And I remember at one point, Derek was like, he's like, I can see you grimacing when you're running downhill. And I was like, I didn't want to say anything, but my knee is like really hurting. And so he had like some kind of cream, like Asper cream or something with him. And he let me use that. Yeah. And then I tried that for a little bit, a few miles, and it really started getting painful. And I remember at one point, Derek actually like helped me. Like, he put the cream on my knee for me, which is like, what a good friend, right? And I got to I got to mile 45. I could tell Derek was moving better and I was moving worse. And I remember asking Derek, like, how are you feeling? You know, he's like, man, I feel really, really great. And I kind of had this thought to myself. I was like, if he's moving this great, he's got lightning in a bottle, right? Like, if he feels that good, he needs to capture this and go for this thing. Because you never know. You might not feel that good for your next 100-mile attempt. So at 45, we were at this aid station at a covered bridge. I was like, dude, if you feel that good, you need to go. It's going to be okay. I'll drop. I'm gonna go get some Taco Bell and take a shower, and I'll just crew you. So that's what I did. I dropped, got some food, took a nice long hot shower, iced up my knee, and I just spent the rest of the night until the next day just keeping tabs on the tracker. And I would meet him where I could and try to give him little pep talks. And I could tell he was struggling a few times when I saw him, but man, he battled like a lion to get that thing done. I'm really stoked that I got to be at the finish line for him. So
isn't that crazy? He must just be on top of the world, knowing that he got it done. First attempt. Wow.
First attempt, man. Wow. So I'm so excited. So
yeah. So the knee, you had said it swelled up. How is it? It's been a week, or how's it doing now?
Yeah, I've actually been able to walk. I've been like doing some incline walking, and in lieu of my run commute to work, I've been cycling. And I think tomorrow I'm gonna try to maybe run 5 miles tomorrow and see how this is doing. So I don't know what caused it. It's just a weird flare up, but like I said, it was a really tough trail, and I don't know. Maybe it just got the best of me that day, and it felt smart to listen to my body and not take a chance of having like a permanent injury. So I live to run another day is kind of what my thought is now.
Yeah, knees are funny. I had my incident a month or two ago at a race, and my knee literally exploded. Like, all the blood vessels burst, and I was like, I don't know. I didn't fall. I don't know. It just blew up, and I dropped too. I DNF'd, but that's all right. We got to do that sometimes. So Derek's top of the world. He gets his buckle. You're feeling okay, right? You're not too sad about not completing it?
Actually, not at all. Like I said, it just felt like the smart thing to do. And I threw myself a little pity party for my first DNF, but this time it just felt like the right thing to do. And like I said, watching Derek cross the finish line really gave me a boost. Like, if I was going to DNF, what a hell of a place to DNF, and how cool it was to see my buddy get his first buckle. So it honestly ended up being a really special trip for me, regardless of a finish or not.
Got it. Love it. Thanks for sharing that. So when's the next 100-mile attempt, 100K attempt? What's next for Trail Tortoise Running? You don't have one on the books yet?
I'm looking at a couple of things. Me and my buddy Doug have been talking about going on some multi-day adventures, but we've been toying around with the idea of trying to run across. We ran mostly across Rhode Island back in March. We got like 50 miles across Rhode Island back in March, and we just ran out of time. And a couple other things came up, but we talked about trying to run across Indiana over 3 or 4 days. But I don't know, I don't know what it is about this 100-mile distance. I can't shake it. And I told myself last week I wouldn't sign up for any more 100-milers this year, and I would just go hiking a bunch this year. But it's just like nagging at me to get this buckle. Yeah. So I don't know what to do. I'm looking at a few things in Ultra Sign Up. Much to the chagrin of my wife, I'm probably going to try another one maybe this November. I have to get this done. Yeah. I don't know.
You do. Just, Joe, you're very young. I'm 57. I started running, 5-6 years ago. I want to do a 100-mile race too, but I'm like, this year my goal is to, I haven't been training much, so do a 50K, try to maybe do a couple 50Ks, maybe get up to 50 miles. Next year, maybe 100K. My goal is to get to 100 miles before I turn 60. So, we just got to be patient with these things sometimes.
Yeah. But it'll come when it comes, right? You just got to let it marinate. And I don't know what it is. I can get to 100K, but getting from 100K to 100 miler, I just can't quite crack that yet. But I'm getting close, I think.
Yeah. I would tell you guys, that Mohican 100, I looked at it, that shit's real, man. 100 miles in 32 hours. I interviewed my buddy Jason, and he did his first 100-mile race. He finished in 32 hours, and that dude is quick, and he had a really tough course. And I'm like, it's similar to the Mohican 100. It's tough. I looked at that and I thought, damn, you guys you're taking on a lot. That's no joke, 32 hours. I like, give me a couple of days. Give me a flat course, couple of days. That's probably what it's going to take for me. We'll see. But
yeah, it was a brutal course.
Yeah. So we'll be back to training here shortly. So I've got a few things at the end here I want to ask you. Before I do, I've got some podcast host questions for you. You're fairly new. You've been doing it for about a year, right?
Yeah, I think my anniversary was. Yeah, I think it has been a year now, actually.
Okay. What do you like best about doing it, and what do you like the least about podcast hosting? It's okay. I only have 50 listeners. No one's going to hear this, Joe. Go ahead.
Yeah, but you know what
someone told me?
Someone told me something. If you had 50 people in your room, that'd be overwhelming. So it's 50 people, that's still cool. But what do I love about it? Well, there's a lot of things I love about it. I really love hearing. Gosh, I really love hearing people's stories, and I like knowing people's whys. And just some of these stories that people have shared with me, people open up and just I've had people be very vulnerable on my show, and to me that's just so powerful. And I love the opportunity to give people that have never been able to share their story on my platform, and I just really, really love that. And I love the fact that you're kind of connected to each person you've interviewed too. So it's I love the fact that I still talk to a great number of past guests that I've had. So it's you always kind of a connection to them, and I love hearing insights from I've had the chance to have Megan Eckert on my show, which is incredible. And it's you find out when you peel the layers back from elite athletes to everyday people like me is we're all basically the same. We're just really trying to make a mark on the world and trying to do something positive with our time here. And I kind of love it. It's like, it doesn't matter where you're at. We're all just trying to do our best. And that's what I love about it. And what I don't like about it is the scheduling part.
Yeah.
The scheduling is just so tough.
Oh yeah.
And so that's something I'd have to say I don't really like about it. But yeah, scheduling, getting people wrangled into a schedule is tough, as you know.
Yes. Well, yeah, this is our third attempt, as we said this week, because of all kinds of stuff going on. But for me, I love everything that you love about it. Getting to know people. I like, like I said, I have like 50 listeners, and I am thankful for each and every one of them. And if I had one listener, and maybe even if I had 0, I would still do it just because it's fun getting to know people, fun to tell stories and hear stories.
Yeah.
The thing I like the least is the technical stuff, like, because I'm a perfectionist. So like, I'll sit here, I'm supposed to launch this tomorrow. It's not going to happen tomorrow. It's going to be Sunday or Monday. Cause I'm going to, you know me, I'm going to sit around and fiddle with stuff and try to, I'll do all this monkey business with it. That's what I hate the most about it. Hey, one more question on podcasting. If you could have any guest, who's your dream guest, Joe? Who's your dream guest?
I've tried to get him on a few times, but I would really love to have Harvey Lewis on. I've been working to get him on for a while. He's a busy human being. I just love his outlook, his positivity, his outlook on life. And I'm a big Backyard Ultra fan, so I just really love. I mean, he ran 450 miles at Big Dogs, and I would just love to get some insight into what drives him and keeps him going for stuff like that. So I'd have to say Harvey Lewis would probably be really high up on my list. Yeah.
Well, you had the next best thing. You had Meg. She was the Backyard.
I know.
One you had on, right? Yeah, she was great.
Phenomenal guest.
Yeah. I'm not sure who my dream guest is. I did email Tim Tollefson because I'm doing Mammoth 50K this year, and he's been really nice. Like last year when I had to cancel, so I sent him an email. I'm like, Tim, I said, I know I've got this silly podcast with 50 listeners. I don't suppose you'd be interested in being on it. And thankfully, he did not respond to that, so I didn't have to get a rejection email. So that's all right. Oh man. This is great. This is awesome, Joe. I like getting to know you. This is really cool. If you've listened to a couple of my episodes, you know I do a few things at the end. I like to ask some silly questions like I do at the beginning. So I'm going to go through these with you. What is a podcast you listen to that you enjoy that has nothing to do with running or trail running?
Oh, I've been really getting into... there's this one called there's this podcast called Your Favorite Band Sucks, and it's like a music. So basically, they've got hundreds of episodes where they just shit on your favorite band, but they just dump on every single band. And I've been digging into that one lately. I think that's okay. And it's funny because it's a similar title, but I've been getting into Your Diet Sucks, which has been a really cool podcast too to listen to. So yeah, two things that kind of different hosts and different genres, but similar title.
This next question might have an obvious answer, maybe it doesn't. But what's an activity you like to do that is not related to running or trail running or podcasting or writing?
Woodworking, huge. I love woodworking just as much as I actually do trail running. So absolutely. Yeah,
I love your woodworking videos, and I don't turn wood like you do. I don't have your skill sets. I do. It comes in spurts. During COVID, I went on a kick and I made a Stickley style couch out of quarter sawn oak, but it comes in spurts. I don't have your skill or talent or your chutzpah that you have to keep going with it. I love your stuff. All right, we're at that point where I've got to ask you. Your 5 favorite pieces of gear when you go running. It could be for trail running or road running. It could involve, Everybody brings up their headphones or something. It could involve anything. Could involve your dog or, your kid or whatever.
Yeah.
But what's your 5 favorite pieces of gear, Joe?
Okay. I'd say my number one thing is, because I run and bike commute to work, is my zip. I have a zip running pack. It's a pack made specifically for run commuting, but it does so well bike commuting as well. That's a huge piece of equipment. I pack my lunch in there every day. A change of clothes in there, sometimes a book, snacks, and it always really does me well for my commute to work. And I'd say number 2 is I've had this Nathan. It's really gross now because I don't wash it like I should. I had this really gross Nathan flip belt that I've been running in for years.
Okay.
And it's a piece of gear you forget about until you don't have it. And you can put a few gels in there, your trash, so you don't have to throw your trash anywhere, because we try to leave it better than we found it. And you can actually put a 500 milliliter soft flask in there, because sometimes I don't want to carry anything. I don't want to have a handheld, so I'll just throw a soft flask in that flip belt. I'd have to say number 3. I love the Hoka Speed Goats, so I'd call that a piece of gear. They're great trail shoes, great for ultra distance. I'd have to say, outside of that, I have this Lucky hat. So it's I love these denim Adidas flat bill hats, and I always usually wear that. So I'd call that that's more of it makes me feel cool. Maybe it's not like a piece of gear.
Yeah.
But
it is a piece of gear. It's all a piece of gear. Your dog, when I interviewed my chiropractor, her dog was a piece of gear. So it's whatever. Is that 4?
And
you need one more, or is that 5?
4. Number 5, I couldn't imagine running an ultra distance without my Salomon Advanced Skin 12. Absolute lifesaver. It's good for short distance, long distance. You can pack tons of stuff in it. You can put a packable rain jacket. It seems to always rain whenever I do ultras, so I'm always glad to be able to throw a rain jacket or wipes in it or something. So I'd have to say that's pretty high up on the list. But so that's my 5 things.
Awesome. This has been great. Joe, thank you so much. I'm going to have links to your podcast, to your Instagram. Do you have a link to your woodworking business? Does that have a website or a link I should include?
Yeah. So I merged with Run Try Bike. It's called RTB Awards now. I've been making race awards now for the last year. So RTB Awards is where you can find that. My woodworking stuff's still on there, but most of my laser CNC and award stuff has been kind of populating on that page as well.
Great. I'll have links to all of that, and soon to be race director. Man, you're just going to town. I absolutely love it. Thank you so much, Joe, for coming on the podcast, and I'm sure we'll be chatting soon, and I'll be following you and waiting for that first 100-mile finish. I'm sure it's going to happen.
I'm going to get that buckle. Yeah, thank you.
Thanks, man. Thank you, Joe, for sharing your story. I just know you're an inspiration to so many people who are struggling with addiction. And you, sir, are shining a light on the concept of redemption through running. If you enjoyed getting to know Joe as much as I did, and you got the time, leave a rating or review. It does help the pod. Of course, I'll have links to all of Joe's websites in the show notes. So that's it for now. Until next time, cheers and take care. Keep running, keep walking, keep moving. Let your curiosity and your gratitude fuel your fire and keep pushing you forward. You'll get that buckle. You'll cross that finish line.